Good morning, it's Phil Thatch, and it is sunrise. And Heather and I are at a place in Florida called the Stick Marsh, which is famous for roseate spoonbills. So we're here and we're going to try to get some shots. I'll be using the Z8 and she'll be using the Canon R7. There's a couple of islands just right over here that are just full of nesting stick birds. And this time of year, they come after nesting material. And so hopefully we'll be able to get them flying in. So that should be fun. The 100 to 400 proved to be the right lens to use here at the Stick Marsh. And here's the first shot I'm sharing with you, and this is 310 millimeters. It was a little overcast on this particular trip to the Stick Marsh, and I liked the soft light on the birds. This is 310 millimeters, 1/1600th of a second, wide open at 5.3, and 1600 ISO as the beautiful Roseate Spoonbill is flying in to get a stick. Here's another shot, possibly in that same pass, also 1/1600th of a second, 300 millimeters now, f5.3 and 2000 ISO as the spoonbill is coming in for a landing. I love the arms out wide or wings out wide wing position. I think I might even like it more than the orchestra conductor where the wings are straight up wing position. Speaking of the orchestra conductor wing position, here's an example of that. This is 290 millimeters, 1/1600th of a second, wide open at 5.3 and 1800 ISO. Here's a arms out wide wing position. This is 220 millimeters wide open at f5, 1/1600th of a second, and ISO 360. One of my favorite shots of the morning. I like how you can see the water here at the bottom and the vegetation on the island where the spoonbill nests are, wing position, and the head angle of the birds coming in to land right in front of us. Here's another orchestra conductor type shot, 220 millimeters, 1/1600th, ISO 800 and wide open at f5. People put sticks down in the area right in front of where all the photographers sit. They bring sticks and set them down, and the birds come in and get the sticks and use them as nesting material and take them over to the island, or the islands, I should say, and build their nest. This is 400 millimeters, 1/1600th of a second, wide open at 5.6 and ISO 2000 of the spoonbill coming in to search for some nest building material. And here's the wings wide shot that I like so much. This wing position, it's interesting. You can see the shoulder and the elbow, and this would be the hand in the bone structure. This is the thumb and the fingers. Very similar skeleton to a human, these spoonbills have. Here's a landing shot with a good example of the orange color on the tail feathers of the roseate spoonbill. And of course, these things have really great eyes, the spoonbill does. This is 270 millimeters, f5.3, 1/1600th of a second, and 1400 ISO. All of my shots are with the Z8 and the Z100 to 400 f4.5 to 5.6 telephoto zoom lens. It was cool to see one of my favorite wildlife photographers in the world there that morning. Here's Mark Smith. I didn't say a word to him other than good morning. I think some of the people there might have been his clients, and I didn't want to interrupt them, but I wish I had gotten a chance to talk to him a little bit more before he left, but I was still shooting when he packed up and left, and I didn't even notice until he was gone. On this particular morning, he was shooting with the 400 2.8 teleconverter Nikon lens and the Z8, which I thought was really cool. Here's another spoonbill coming in for a landing. Just beautiful. I love that wing position. And I love it when they're tilting their body to where you can see both of the wings completely and the head's in the shot with a good head angle. Really, really cool. And you get some foreground vegetation, some water, and the island in the background where they build their nests. This is 230 millimeters, 1/1600th of a second, wide open at f5 and 900 ISO. In this shot, you can see both of the islands, the one on the right over here and the one on the left. And this is land that you can walk to here in the background, but everybody sits on the side that we're on, or most people do, because you got better sun angle. 1/1600th of a second, 230 millimeters, f5 and ISO 1100. Here's a spoonbill flying over with nothing in the background but sky, but I thought it was a beautiful shot anyway. This is 240 millimeters, 1/2000th of a second, wide open at f5 and ISO 250. The clouds started to break up a little bit and we got a little bit more sun on the birds, which I kind of like, except for the shadow of the neck and part of the head on this wing. This is 1/3200th of a second, f5.3, ISO 640, and this is a 310 millimeter shot. Here's another shot, I think, in that same pass, 310 millimeters, 1/3200th of a second, f5.3, and ISO 720 this time. This is a boat-tail grackle, which when you look closely, it's not just a black bird. It's got beautiful purple here and blue, just beautiful. This is a male. This is 260 millimeters, 1/800th of a second. I slowed down my shutter speed for this non-in-flight bird. f5 and ISO 200 of a boat-tail grackle there on the rocks in front of where all the photographers were sitting. Back to in-flight shots now, and I've moved my shutter speed back up to 1/3200th of a second. This is 400 millimeters, wide open at 5.6, and ISO 220 of the beautiful spoonbill as it's flying over. Another 400 millimeter shot at 1/3200th of a second. Just adore these birds, and one of my favorite things about going to shoot roseate spoonbills is Heather always wants to go when we do spoonbill photography. This one is 280 ISO. I made a video clip of several spoonbills that had already flown in and landed as they were kind of looking at some of the nesting material and picking and choosing. This is handheld with the 100 to 400 on the Z8, and I kind of zoomed in a little bit, but I thought it was cute to see all these birds kind of sometimes almost fighting over the same stick. And then I got to concentrating more on the bird that looked like it had the biggest stick, and he's finally decided, you know what, I like this one. I am going to take this thing to the nest, and maybe he's not going to take it. Oh, here we go. Maybe not. Yes, off we go. Back to the nest with some nesting material that hopefully my mate will be happy with. All right, here are Heather's photographs from the Stick Marsh, and all of these are made with the Canon R7 APS-C camera and the RF 100 to 500 lens. It's a 4.5 to 7.1. She got some shots of the birds on the ground as they were looking for the perfect stick to put on their nest. This one's 270 millimeters, f5.6, 1/200th of a second, and ISO 1600. Here's another one of the beautiful roseate spoonbills. She loves those birds, and so do I. This one's 270 millimeters, 1/200th of a second, f5.6, and ISO 1600. Another bird on the ground, and you can see just behind the bird is a bunch of sticks that have been carried over there. It's amazing. You can bring in spoonbills at this location just by putting some sticks down, like I bring in birds at my blind by putting some bird seed out. This is 270 millimeters, 1/200th of a second, f5.6, and 800 ISO. Picking and choosing what would be the best nesting material is this roseate spoonbill at 270 millimeters, 1/200th of a second, f5.6, and 800 ISO. This is a limpkin that was also there. I didn't get a picture of a limpkin on this day, but on our next trip to the Stick Marsh, I got a limpkin in flight, so I thought that was cool. This is 300 millimeters, 1/500th of a second, f5.6, and ISO 2000 with the R7 and the 100 to 500. And now Heather's getting some birds in flight. This is the orchestra conductor wing position, one of Heather's favorites and maybe my second favorite. This is 1/800th of a second. Heather was shooting with the mechanical shutter for birds in flight, so she didn't have any rolling shutter problems that are common on the R7. This is 176 millimeters, f5, ISO 800. And there is a little motion blur in the wingtips because her shutter speed was only 1/800th. It was pretty dark, but it's still an absolutely beautiful photograph. And I love the color in the background. Really nice. Then the color of the water, everything about it, just really, really good. Here's another orchestra conductor wing position shot that Heather has captured of this spoonbill landing. Another 176 millimeter shot, 1/800th of a second, f5, and 500 ISO. The R7 has a 1.6 crop, so this has about a 281 millimeter full frame equivalent field of view, shooting at 176 on the R7. This is more the wing position that I'm thrilled with when the wings are way back and fully extended. Another 176 millimeter shot at 1/800th. This is f5 and ISO 640. Here's a spoonbill coming in from the other direction. She's still at 176 millimeters, 1/1250th, getting a little more light now. f5 and 1250 ISO. Beautiful shot of the spoonbill coming in for a landing. Still at 176 millimeters. She figured out a focal length that worked and she stuck with it. 1/1250th of a second, f5, and ISO 1600. Another 176 millimeter shot of the spoonbill flying by, and it looks like it's looking right at Heather. This is also 1/1250th, f5, and ISO 250. I love the colors in this one. This is 135 millimeters wide open at 4.5, 1/1250th of a second, and ISO 1600. Here's another orchestra conductor wing position landing shot. This is another 135 millimeter shot, 1/1250th, wide open at 4.5, and ISO 1000. Heather says the spoonbill is a derpy looking bird, and you can see that in this shot. 135 millimeters, 1/1250th, wide open at 4.5 and 500 ISO. Beautiful shot here of the spoonbill with the great wing position, 1/1250th of a second, 135 millimeters f4.5 and 500 ISO. This is a male red-bellied woodpecker that was hanging around there. I think somebody was throwing peanuts and the grackles and the woodpeckers were enjoying that. This is 270 millimeters, 1/3200th of a second. A little bit later in the day, a lot more light, f5.6 and ISO 2000. And here's another shot of the same male woodpecker, 1/1000th of a second, 270 millimeters, f5.6 and ISO 640. Well, that is another amazing birding location we can mark off the list. We finally visited the Stick Marsh. It was really cool. Really, really cool. Hope you enjoyed the pictures. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see some more stuff like this, subscribe and hit the bell. Bye-bye.